morning, everyone. Welcome to today's BYTE session webinar. On today's session, we will be focusing on managing employees coming in and out of the business on oneHR. So we'll be focusing on how we set up our new starters, but then also how we can archive and remove users from our employee lists within oneHR. And if they were to return in the future, how we can restore their user accounts as well. So let's start by going through the setup process of a new employee on oneHR. We'd start by going into our employees list, and then from our employee listing, in the top right hand corner here, we have our option to add a new employee. Initially here, we're going to be prompted to put in their name. So we're just going to go for a test user as their name, select their department, and then also set this employee's start date with the business. Once we've got these initial details filled in, we can then click on the create button, which will generate this employee's employee record within the system. So click on the create button. And you can see now I am prompted initially to fill in the employee's information tab. So this is where we can contact the update the likes of their name, some personal information such as gender, marital status, date of birth. But then if I scroll towards the bottom of this tab, this is where we can also capture the likes of their department again, their job role within the organization, and then their start date as well. So for this employee, we say they are sales manager, for example. We can then scroll up and update this information. The information at the top of this page, so the likes of their title, their gender, marital status, whatever it may be, anything that's personal to that employee themselves, they will have the ability to come in and update this themselves at a later date if you don't have this information to hand at the point of setting up this initial employee information. What we can then look at setting up is their contact details and their emergency contact information. So again, if you don't have this information to hand, this is something that can be inputted by the employees themselves. So they'll be able to log into the system, enter their address, phone number and their email address. Same with their emergency contact information as well. In terms of the essentials for setting up an employee on the system, we'd next want to look at setting up this employee's leave allowance for the current leave period. So here we've got the ability to come in and set what their leave allowance is from their start date to the end of the leave period that we're in currently. And then what we can also do is set the leave allowance for the next leave period in advance. So if you've got an employee starting partway through the year, you'll need to input their prorated leave allowance here. But then you can set what their full leave allowance is in place, ready for the leave year when that begins. And that value will automatically carry over or update when that new leave period begins. Let's say, for example, on the 1st of January in 2026. Once that's been updated, when this employee comes to logging into the system, they'll be able to see what their leave entitlement is, and they'll be able to start booking holidays within oneHR straight away. What we can then also look at setting up for our employees is their working week. So the system will assign a default working pattern to this employee, but we've also got the ability to come in and assign their own individual working pattern as well. So say, for example, if this employee worked a 4-day working week, or this was their working pattern, we'd be able to assign this working pattern and set when this was effective from. So this can be from the day they start with the business, or if you know, for example, for the first 6 months, they're going to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Then after 6 months, they're going to work Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5. You can schedule or set those working patterns in advance of that employee joining the business. There is also a previous BYTE Sessions webinar video or recording that you'll be able to watch that focuses specifically on how we can set up these working patterns within oneHR. So if this is an area that you're looking for further expansion on, I would highly recommend that you go and find and watch that video. You will be able to find it in the description of this video once it's uploaded to YouTube as well. So we've signed this employee's working pattern. We can now see this employee works 4 days, Monday with a Tuesday off, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So when it comes to this employee booking holidays on the system, any requests that are made, deductions will be made in line with their own individual set working pattern. What we then want to look at for this employee is the onboarding and right to work tabs. So this is where we can capture any key HR documentation. So we can capture here in the onboarding tab, likes of this employee's national insurance number, proof of address. We can upload their job offer letter, job description, and we're also able to upload their signed contract here as well. So any information that's uploaded within this section will be visible to the employee, so they can have access to this key information at any time. But also when it comes to running reports within oneHR, you're going to be able to see who does have their signed contract in place and who doesn't. So I would always say that this is an essential step in that initial employee setup process. Same with the right to work information. Here we can check what right to work information we have for this new starter. And then we also have the ability to upload any key documentation. So whether it be a passport, visa, share code, you can see there are preset fields for each of these key documents within this section here. Once we have this employee's profile populated, we then have the ability to then activate this user and give them access to the oneHR system. So initially what we're setting up is their employee record. Once we want to then activate their profile, up here in the top left of our employee's record, we've got the ability to click on this create user button, which will allow us to set their username, which by default will use a first name .surname format. We can pop in their email address. If we've already populated this in the contact details section, it will automatically pull through to this email address field here. And then we've got the ability to set this employee's role within the system on oneHR. So are they an admin, are they a manager, or are they an employee? So this will determine what level of access they get to the system. If they're a manager, they'll be able to have visibility of other users in the system, the ability to approve or manage leave and absence within the leave calendar. And then, of course, if they're an admin, they will have full access to make amendments and updates to profiles for all of the users of the system as well. Once our employee's role is being set, we simply can then click on the create button. And at this point, the system will send off an email to that new starter. This will be a welcome email that will include their username and then also a link for them to set their own individual password as well. Once that password's been set, that employee is then set up and running on the system. They're going to be able to log in, view their own personal profile, and then start booking any holidays, however they see fit, essentially. So that's the employee setup process. I would say this is quite a straightforward process, but I would always consider making sure that we are kind of going through those key areas and capturing that initial key employment data for this user. So when they're logging in, there aren't gaps in information and they're able to just hit the ground running within oneHR. So that's the kind of first focus point of this session. We also want to look at then how we can archive and remove users from the system. So as you can see, next to our create user button here, we've also got an archive button, which will allow us to click on this archive button. We can set this employee's leaving date. So we can backdate this date. We can have them be archived today, or then we do also have the ability to schedule the archiving of this employee by setting their leaving dates for a date in the future. So say, for example, I knew this employee was going to be leaving the business on the 25th of June and click on this date. And you can see now, rather than just say archive, this button now says schedule archive instead. So if I was to archive this user, they'd be removed from the employee list straight away. When this is being scheduled, the employee will remain in the active employees list until this set date, at which point they will be moved onto the list of former employees. So if I say click on this button now to schedule this archive, you'll also see that we've got the ability to add a reason for why the employee is leaving the business. And we can also upload an accompanying document, so whether it be an exit interview, notes, a resignation letter, essentially anything that you want to store against this record, you've got the ability to do so here. So I'm going to click on this button so you can see what it looks like when we schedule the archive of an employee. So you can now see on this employee's profile, we've got a note at the top here that lets us know this employee has been scheduled for archiving on the 25th of June 2025. And we can also click on this link to view the details that have been captured. So here we'd be able to see the reason for that person leaving the business, along with any documents that have been uploaded here as well. We'd be able to view and download those documents from within this pop-up box as well. You can see now that I've set this employee to be archived, that the system is prompting me to add an automation. So when a new starter joins the business or when an employee leaves the business, we have the ability to trigger an onboarding or offboarding workflow. So I had to click on the add button here. You can see I'm able to select my automation. So for example, here we've got a templated offboarding automation workflow, and we can set when we want this to start. So dependent on the workflow itself, it may be that we know the employee is leaving in 3 weeks. So we have a workflow that over the next 3 weeks will trigger tasks for that employee, their line manager and office manager to make sure that certain exit steps are taken care of, whether that be the scheduling of an exit interview or that IT access is shut down for this employee following their last day. You've got the ability to kind of set that initial start date. And once you click on save, you'll be able to see the details and the tasks within that workflow as well. There is also a previous BYTE Sessions webinar from just a few months ago that focuses specifically on how we can create our workflows and then also how we can assign and manage them against an employee's profile. So I would also recommend that you watch that video. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see a link to that former session in the description of this video as well. But again, those workflows can be created either when an employee joins or leaves the business. With our leavers, so if someone's left the business and we want to restore or reinstate that user within the system, as an admin, we'd have the ability to do so. So we can do this by going into the admin section and then into the employee management section here. So by default, this is going to show us a list of active users on the system. But then we also at the top here have the ability to switch to a list of former employees or archived users as well. So here on this this demo or this dummy account, we've got a fair few leavers or employees that have been archived. But you can see here we've got the ability to say we want to restore Jürgen Klopp to the employee list or to be an active employee again. We've got an edit option here on the right-hand side, and you can see we've then got the ability to restore this employee. So if I click on this option, I can then go back into our employees list, and we should be able to see, here we are, this user is now back on our active list of employees. And all we'd need to do in this instance to give them access to the system once more is click on the edit user button, re-enable their profile, and then resend their welcome email. So they'd receive a new welcome email from the system where they'd be prompted to create a password and get logged into oneHR once again. If you're restoring a user, you may want to go through those initial setup steps again, ensuring that the likes of their information, contact details, and job details are up to date. And you can just work through that the same way you would a brand new starter to the business. The very last step to cover on this section with regards to leavers is in the admin section, we have a GDPR tab. And here we're able to put in or set default periods after which leavers information or archived employees information will be purged or removed from the system. So in line with GDPR, obviously you have a responsibility to retain certain records and remove certain records, and you'll be able to manage that here. So within this admin section in the GDPR tab, we can set our default periods. So you can see there is a section that corresponds with first the actual employee profile itself. So after X amount of years, that entire record can be scrubbed or removed from the system. And then for each field or piece of information that we hold against this employee on the system, you can come in and adjust the different periods after which you want that information to be removed. So once you've set this default on the system, anytime you archive a user within oneHR, this information or these periods will automatically be put in place with information being removed from oneHR in line with the periods that we have set here as well. So I think that's what I wanted to cover on today's session. So it's two key, quite simple but key areas of the system when it comes to actually managing our users, just to ensure that on oneHR, your employee list is up to date with the correct information, with every employee having the access that they need, and anyone that doesn't or shouldn't have access to the system having been archived or removed as well. If you'd like to learn more about the features that have been discussed on this call today, or if you would like to schedule a separate training call to run through these areas specifically, please don't hesitate to get in touch with the team. If you drop us an email or send an email through to help@onehrsoftware.com, a member of our customer success team will be able to pick up with you from there and ensure that you eventually you are in a position where you feel comfortable with every step within this process as well. Otherwise, I'd really like to thank everyone for joining today's session, and information on the next the BYTE session webinar will be released in the coming weeks, so you'll receive a notification from us on the next session what the focus and content is going to be. Hope you all have a lovely day, and thank you for joining once again. Thank you.